matter what, we all need sunlight. We just all need different variations of the sunlight. And it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Just like we all need different levels of iron, depending on your ethnicity. Peace, family. This is Gypsy Jones. We're here with another sermon for the study of the OmniMetaSpiritual, all things that are beyond traditional spirituality. For the practice of KuvuK, which is the process of transcendence. From the third dimensional state of experience, transitioning through the fourth dimension, right, which is just a transitional dimension. Fully activating our fifth dimensional bodies so that we may then be fortunate enough to experience the sixth dimensional plane. So, on our last sermon, we were speaking about the chakras, right? Stimulation versus activation, right? Temporary energy movement that ultimately ends in contraction versus a more permanent energy movement that continues in expansion. Ashe. We ended up, we finished with the sacral. So if you didn't catch it, it should be up on Instagram, on YouTube. But now today we're going to get into some more of the chakras. So today's session we're getting into the solar plex chakra and the difference between the stimulation energy versus the activation energy. Now, in our stimulation energy, we have our things that stimulate us, but ultimately create a level of contraction, making the vortex, that portal, smaller. We have we have money, possessions, likes, getting likes off of your social media platforms, fame, notoriety, and siphoning. Ashe. So, money, right? Money gives us a temporary. See, when you're dealing with the solar plex chakra, you're talking about confidence. On the positive side, on the negative side, you're dealing with fear, insecurity. On the positive side, you're talking about confidence, purpose, self, a selflessness versus a selfishness. And not understanding self, not knowing who you are, right? So, money, we tend to make money our prime objective, which makes sense because that's the world that we live in, right? Where money is the prime objective, so I understand. But in that case, in that scenario, by relying on money to give us that confidence, by relying on money to give us our purpose, because when it comes to, sometimes we like to use the word passion, right? You want to find your passion and then make money off it that way, right? That's not the same thing as purpose. That'll give you a purpose, but that's not the same thing as purpose, meaning what your purpose is may not necessarily be what your passion is. For instance, my passion is sports, it's competition, it's competing, it's motivational speaking, but that was not my purpose. There was a purpose for me to go down those routes to be a college football player, to be a motivational speaker and an author, right? To be a spiritualist, or in a sense of the breaking contracts and things of that nature, and doing spells or what have you, right? psychic readings, tarot cards, right? There was a purpose for me to do those things, a personal trainer. There's a purpose, but that wasn't my purpose. And some of the things where I was very passionate about doing. What I'm doing right now, what I'm speaking about right now, you know, is there's a certain level of passion that I have for it. But it's not my quote unquote passion. And in fact, this part right here, me speaking to you right now, is not necessarily my full purpose. My actual purpose is what I'm talking about, what OmniMetaSpiritual, what KuvuK is about. It's about transcendence. My purpose is to transcend, as it says in my chart. My purpose is to transcend. This has a purpose, is to help me to actually achieve my actual purpose, right, which is to transcend, which I don't necessarily have a passion for. The process of transcending it's not that fun. It's not that enjoyable. There's parts to enjoy, but it's a lot of work, and work that I'm not necessarily passionate about. So when it comes to making money, I've made money in many different ways. Some of those ways I was more passionate about than others. Ashe. But the money itself, especially when it becomes more about the money than it becomes about the actual process or the actual thing that you're doing, what tends to happen is like it gives you the stimulation of self, of like, it gives you the stimulation of like self, of like, okay, I know self, this is me, this is who I am. It gives you that feeling, but when the money is gone, or when the money's not there, or when the money is spent, or after you've used the money and you still got plenty more, or maybe you don't have barely any. Either way, you still end up coming back to self and feeling empty and feeling like you're lacking something, and feeling, or becoming more ego-based, meaning you get caught more in the physical realm. So then it's actually contracting your solar plexus chakra. Possessions go the same way. The cars, the clothes, the houses, the merchandise, the jewelry, things like that. Now, that does not mean you should not make money. It also doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy nice things, because there is a certain level of activation that does come from making money, and does come from working, and does come from obtaining material items, not only for survival, but actually for your spiritual development. It is necessary to an extent. For some more than others, depending on how your chart is set up. Ashe. But if it becomes your God, if it becomes your end-all be-all type thing, then it stimulates initially, but then it'll end up contracting. So it's not black and white that, oh, money is bad. No, making money your God will then contract your chakra instead of expanding it. Ashe. Money and possessions, right? Likes, getting likes, which is, validation, and excess validation on your TikToks, your Instagrams, on your YouTubes, and whatever, your Twitter, your Twitch, right? Now, that's not saying, okay, if you post something and you're getting likes, that means, oh, now my chakra is shrinking. That's not what that means. It means that if you are relying on the likes to give you validation about who you are as a being, then you're going to stimulate this chakra, but then it's going to shrink afterwards. And then you'll need more likes. See, basically put it this way. If you're relying on the likes, what you'll notice is that if you're relying on the likes, what you'll find is that you have to keep getting more likes in order to feel whole. If you're relying on the likes as your validation of, if the likes themselves become your purpose, become your direction, right? It will cause that shrinkage to happen because you're relying on something outside of self. You can use tools and things outside of self to stimulate, and you should use tools outside of self to stimulate. But when you rely on them, it's like it's good to use supplements, right? It's good to use supplements to help us retrieve the vitamins and minerals and the different nutrients that we need. But because it's not in its natural state, we become overly reliant on this outside thing, which initially is very helpful to us, but ultimately becomes harmful to us because now our body is used to getting it in this abundant and already pre-processed state. So it's not, it no longer requires to use particular enzymes from the liver or from whatever other part of the organ to try to break down the food that it originally would come from, that you would get that vitamin from. Or even better example is when it comes to vitamin D. More specifically, vitamin D3. Vitamin D comes from the activation of the sun. It doesn't come from the sun. There's not vitamin D rays coming and hitting you. What it is happening is that the sun, when it hits the skin, and you get a certain amount of sunlight, and I believe a certain type of sunlight as well, a certain spectrum. There are certain like microorganisms that are in the intestines, I believe, that come to the surface to grab some of that sunlight so that it can create vitamin D3. You create vitamin D3. It comes from within you, but you do need an outside source to stimulate it, to get it going. So once again, outside sources are necessary. They are needed for survival and for activation to a certain extent. But when you rely just on the unnatural source, because really it's all about the unnatural source. It's about doing things unnaturally. Ultimately, understand that it's not just about, or it's not purely about the stimulating process itself. In some cases it is, but in a lot of cases it's really just about the unnatural way you're going about it. Like we talked about the root chakra, where we said, sex stimulates, but it contracts the root chakra. But tantra, right, or tantra sex stimulates and activates and expands the root chakra. They're both intercourse. Just one is natural and one is unnatural. When it comes for human beings, Tantra, I would say, is natural, while sex is unnatural. Or a better way to put it is Tantra is cosmically in alignment, while sex is not. I'll show you. And people can put different titles, different things, but I just like to use Tantra versus the sex because it has to me, a more accurate way of describing and comparing. So, same thing like with money and possessions. and likes. Now, the likes that are coming from your platforms are a good barometer to one, to tell if you're heading on the right path to begin with, and two, they're a good barometer to tell, do the people like what you have? Are the people supportive? Is this a good thing, right? They're not the end all be all, but they are a pretty good barometer indicator of that. But they should not be, but if they become, I shouldn't say that if they should not be, because it's not about if they should or should not. It's about what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to expand your chakras, your vortexes, right, in order to transcend to your fifth dimensional body? Or are you just going for the stimulation? Because if you're just going for the stimulation, then don't worry about it. Then do not worry about it. Or if you don't really care either way, then don't worry about it either. It's all about, you should not get caught up in the stimulation, into the likes, if you are trying to achieve your fifth dimensional body. That's what I mean. And we also said with fame, which is similar to the likes, notoriety, which is similar to the likes, the adoration, the admiration, and the which gives you the indication that you are somebody important, somebody that's doing something that's, worth paying attention to or acknowledging. And siphoning. Now this is a good one, siphoning, because there are energy vampires out there. There are a lot of energy vampires out there. One way, people who are, when you're a big fan of somebody and you're consuming what they are, well, I'll put it this way. Some fans are siphoning the energy from the famous person, from the celebrity. But most are actually throwing the energy towards that famous person. And so a famous person, a lot of times, is siphoning energy. It depends, though, because some are getting siphoned, some are not. It depends on the type of celebrity it is. And what kind of spiritual work are they doing in the background. But either way, whether you're the fan or whether you're person, or whether you're in a relationship and you're siphoning from your partner, or they're siphoning from you, or friendship and you're siphoning from your friend, or your friend siphoning from you, or family member and they're siphoning, from your energy, or you're siphoning from them. When you're purposely trying to pull, or maybe even unconsciously, are pulling or addicted to pulling and siphoning energy from other people in order to empower yourself, make yourself healthier, stronger, more powerful, whatever it is, more youthful. When you are siphoning energy, you are siphoning their essence, right? That soul energy. When you're siphoning that, that's solar plex, right? That gives you that inner power, that inner light, which stems from the solar plex. And when you do that, it stimulates your solar plex chakra, but once again, it shrinks it, it contracts it, because you are not building up your solar plex energy, your soul energy. You're not activating your soul battery. You are stealing from other soul batteries. So it feels like your soul battery is growing, but really it's just being stimulated. But then you're going to need more and more and more. That's how you know these things are contracting, because you need more and more and more. Just like with the junk food, you need more and more and more. With nutritional, natural, cosmically in alignment food, you can only eat so much. You can't keep expanding it, because it tells you when to stop. It forces you to stop. But junk food, no, you can keep going. That's why people can get up to 400, 500, 1,000 pounds off of junk food, off of unnatural food, off of artificial foods. Now let's go to the other side of solar plex chakra. The other side, the activation side, 'cause that's what's important, right? The activation side, breathing, meditation, always meditation. You're gonna see that for every one of these. Purpose, following purpose. Clothing, fabrics, materials, whether it be on your body or in your house, in your car, and the sun, right? These are your activators, meaning your expanders. And you may ask the question, okay, if I relying on possessions in, let's say, clothing or likes, and it stimulates, and it's outside of me. Well, we can say that meditation is inside, we can say that. But then in breathing, maybe we can say that's inside as well, even though it's coming from outside. But then the sun, isn't that from outside? Wouldn't that cause a contraction because it's stimulating on the outside? It's not going to cause a contraction because remember that it is a cosmically in alignment source. It is a naturally cosmically in alignment source with you. So it's there purposely to assist you. Right? Breathing. So we say breathing, we're talking about deep breaths. And we're talking about the deeper the breaths, the longer you can hold those breaths going from in to out, the longer time it takes you to get through those breaths. One, the more powerful your body will become, because the more time your body has and your lungs and your blood cells have time to digest the oxygen. Understand, the slower you breathe, the deeper you breathe, the more time your body has to digest the oxygen. You have to digest it. Now, you don't digest it the same way that you digest food, what we consider food, fish or fruits or vegetables or plants or any other meats. You don't digest it in the same way. You don't digest it with the same organs or glands, rather, right? Because the lungs are glands. But you do digest the food, or you digest the air. It's probably more like you metabolize it. It's probably a better way to put it. You metabolize the air. So, and when once again, what does the sun do? The sun electrifies us. It's light. It's not fire. It's light. It electrifies us. Light is electrified. It's electricity. So, if the sun is electricity and our solar plex represents the sun, that's the part of our being that is electrical or most electrical. That's the electrical part. So it deals with charging the body, electrifying the body. So every time you breathe, you are electrifying the body. So the deeper the breaths, the bigger your solar plex becomes, because the more natural electricity you are obtaining. Understand, when you get likes, don't you feel charged up? When you get money, don't you feel charged up? When you buy a new car, a new house, anything new, don't you feel charged up? Ashe. When you become famous or you blow up or something goes viral, your video goes viral, you get charged up, but it's just artificial charge. That's why it shrinks back down. But breathing, even though it's more challenging to sit there, think about it, to practice it, it charges you up. It does not shrink back down later. Now, just like anything else, if I'm working out every day, get my pump on, right? My muscles will grow, and grow. If I stop, my muscles will stay about the same for a little while. If I continue for a long period of time, eventually they will shrink. But it takes time. But it will last a while before they start to shrink again. But they're not shrinking due to like an addiction or due to this unnatural need to keep it pumped up, right? It's shrinking because you're not using it anymore, the muscles anymore. Same thing with the breathing. If you're just not breathing, if you're doing deep breaths for a year, it'll grow your solar plex chakra vortex. But then if you stop, well, after about 6 months. After a few months, it'll start to go down, which will be good though for quite a while. It'll start to go down, not because it's because of an addiction. It's just you're not using it anymore. So that's the difference between using these unnatural artificial stimulations versus these natural stimulations. What are we looking at? We're looking at, so breathing, meditation, right? And we'll go into, as I said last video, last sermon, we'll go into more what I mean by how to use meditation to activate the chakras. Purpose. So when you're following purpose versus you are following just your passion or your desires or your wants or your needs, when you're following purpose, it activates and expands the solar plexus chakra. It charges you up, but see, it doesn't give you this crazy, overly high charge like being famous does. No, it just gives you a balanced charge. And the more and more that you're following your purpose, the more and more that charge increases, but slowly, just like exercise. But if you're taking steroids, right? I think we talked about with the root chakra, right? If you're taking steroids, it will give you that quick boom, that big boost, that charge, but then you got to take more steroids. You got to keep taking them. Otherwise, if you go back to regular workouts, same exercises, without steroids, all of a sudden, your strength goes down real quick. Because it was not real to begin with. It was not cosmically in alignment to begin with. So purpose. And your purpose is always the same, but the avenues that are playing a purpose in your life to assist you and to direct you and to guide you into accomplishing your purpose will change. Those avenues will change. Some will change way more drastically for some people than other people. Right. Ashe. Clothing. Now I know earlier we talked about money, possessions, but here I got clothing, fabrics, sun. Right? Clothing. When you're wearing the clothing for a purpose and not wearing clothing to give you purpose, to make you feel like you're someone of purpose. If you're only trying to wear the clothing just because that's the only way that you feel important, to get notoriety and fame, but not to achieve an actual purpose from it that you can build on, if it's something that you can build on in the long run, if it's just purely just for your own ego. Now, either way, there is an ego element to it, but you are an ego. You have an ego, so there's nothing. The ego is there for a purpose. It's there to assist you. But when you make the ego your master or your god, this is what happens. So it becomes stimulation versus activation. But when you're using clothing, see, I'm wearing the clothes I'm wearing is for a purpose. I don't need to. Now, I do need to look fly for certain videos, or a certain type of fly for certain videos, and a different type of fly for other videos. I do need to do that to achieve a certain vibration, to give off a certain look as well, but achieve a certain vibration and to give off a certain look. Right? There is a purpose. But the clothes do not make me. That's why I'm willing to switch and change from my urban monk or my Papa Lagas look to my Gypsy Jones look, because the clothes are playing a purpose. They are not making me a person of purpose. I am a person of purpose, and I'm using these, and I'm following a purpose, and I'm using the clothes for a specific purpose. Ashe. Including the accessories, because these accessories are crystals. All right. Now, gold has a purpose, and diamonds have a purpose, and platinum and all these other vibrations, they do as well, right? But especially gold, but with the coppers and all those type, especially gold, but the coppers and the silvers and all these metals, they all have a purpose, right? So the crystals that I'm wearing have a purpose vibrationally. And then I put them together nicely so that people can see, and it draws eyes, and you want to know about that purpose as well. It's twofold. So fabrics, that's where you're getting into like the high. So we get into clothing. We also want into clothing and well as fabrics on those clothing. When we're talking about cotton, linen, wool, the high vibrational gamma vibrational wave clothing, right? Not just in clothing, but as well as in couches and blankets, sheets, pillowcases, all that type of stuff, right? And then we also have materials. So we're talking about in your house. What type of material is your house built out of? What kind of paint? Is it lead paint? Right? Even actually, I don't want to say that because actually lead paint is lead paint was actually more useful than what we've realized. But like having wood, a lot of wood in your house, keep the energy grounded. Ashe. Having a lot of metals instead of plastics, or having glass, like what you cook with. Is it glass? Is it copper? Is it like some kind of high vibrational metal? Or is it a low vibrational metal like aluminum? Ashe. The material of your shoes. Is it pleather or is it leather? Right? Even down to your underwear. Is it cotton or the polyester? The fabric inside of your car. Yes, the more expensive cars, the more high priced cars are going to have higher vibrational fabrics in them. But if you're only trying to get those cars to make you feel important, then those high class cars end up becoming a stimulation versus activation. And then of course we have the sun. The sun is an activator. Why? Because it is naturally and cosmically in alignment with you. Now, of course, depending on how much melanin you have, the darker you are, the more sunlight you can absorb. The lighter you are, the less sunlight you can. The lighter you are, the less sunlight you can absorb. But no matter what, we all need sunlight. We just all need different variations of the sunlight, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Just like we all need different levels of iron, depending on your ethnicity. We need different levels of different nutrients. That is okay. So with the sunlight, it is of the same frequency, in a sense, of your inner sun, your soul energy, your solar energy, your solar battery. So it charges you in a natural sense. It gives you a natural charge. You just don't want to leave it just to the sun, because then the sun is there to help refuel you, to refuel your charge, your solar plex energy. And to an extent, it will help to expand your solar plex chakra. But then it's up to you to do the extra work, especially the breathing and the meditation, to help expand it further. The sun will only get you so far. But just like The meditation and the breathing won't get you so far if you don't have the sun either. Ashe. Or at least it's a lot harder, I'll say it that way, without that sun. Ashe. So I think this video is long enough. I know we got 2 chakras in last time. This time I'm gonna leave it at the 1 because we're kind of flowing more into it. So we will continue on the next sermon with the next chakra, the heart. Maybe we can get through the heart and the throat next time. This is Gypsy Jones here with another, study and teachings of the OmniMetaSpiritual, all things that are beyond traditional spirituality, for the purpose of KuvuK, which is transcendence from the 3rd dimension through the 4th dimension into our 5th dimensional bodies to experience the 6th dimensional plane. I'll catch you on the next video. Ashe.